As election day grows closer for America, people are faced with a choice. Aliens or witches? And then we take a look at the story of a pizza delivery driver out on his route after he's dropped off his last delicious pizza pie and is headed back to the restaurant for more. He has no idea he's about to have an encounter that will force us all to ask the question, are our own paranormal experiences actually hiding something even worse? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio.
Actually, I'm a lot freaked out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend. I hope you guys had tons of fun. We got a lot of stuff to cover today, so first off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command, everyone get on your feet and give it up for one of our legacy Patreon supporters, Sergeant Clowney. We're clapping and saluting at the same time. Sergeant Clowney's walking in. He's like, what? You guys don't have to salute. I'm not actually a sergeant, but he is actually a clown. Sergeant Clowney, you're going to be our captain, our pilot. We can give him a real round of applause. Yeah, there he goes. Quit clowning around, Jason. Sergeant Clowney, you're going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially, I totally understand. I do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Sergeant Clowney, it's good to have you on duty for this episode. Let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the Jason Jalopy. Everyone climb on board this bad boy. As Sergeant Clowney drives us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command all the way out to Washington, D.C. We're headed all the way out there. It takes us so long to get there. It is now January 20th, 2025. And we are currently at the inauguration of our new president. That's pretty safe bet, right? Because if either one of them wins, they'll be new. And we're standing in the crowd, and we see the president. Wait, we can't see any part of them. They're wearing gloves, and we can't see the color of their skin. We can't see if it's Trump or Kamala. We just see a hand waving from the crowd, where it's a big crowd, and we all shrank about 3 feet. Because I don't want to ruin the surprise. I know who it is, because obviously I'm psychic, but I don't want to ruin it for you. We're watching this president get inaugurated. We're in this huge crowd. And then all of a sudden, the sky goes black. Lightning bolts start striking the crowd. We're running. I didn't see that coming. I'm just a little psychic. I can only read political polls. Running, lightning is striking. People are just getting eviscerated. By the way, Secret Service, I'm not promising this. They're like, oh, does he have a weapon? Does he have a plan? Can he control the weather? We're running from these lightning strikes. It's just blowing people apart. Left and right. Not us, right? Because we're straight down the center. We're running. We're like, ah. And people are just getting, like, hit by lightning. They're blowing up. But then we start to hear a and we look up. We probably should keep running. You're like, Jason, you're like hiding under a rock. Come here. It's like, no, I hear something. And we see witches on broomsticks flying around. And they're shooting lightning at the crowd. They're shooting out of their fingers. And I'm like, dude, look, witch. The witch people are all covered in blood behind me. Ah, they're burning. Look, guys, it's a witch. Come out from underneath your rock. Look, it's a witch. Whee! They're all flying around on their brooms. But then we turn and we see some of the lightning is actually coming from UFOs. Like, oh, that's cool too. Probably that's cooler than the witches, honestly. Should have looked at that more often. But we're watching these UFOs, and these witches fly around and just kill thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people on January 20th, 2025. Again, not a threat. I'm not making a threat. I'm not even really making a prediction. I climb underneath this rock. We realize it's the former Washington Monument. It's just been reduced to rubble, but I'm hiding under there with you guys. And I go, well, I kind of saw this coming. Right? I kind of saw America under siege by either witches or aliens. And as election day does get closer, obviously, I mean, this has been a crazy election season anyways. We have all the standard conspiracy theories, and then we got the wacky ones. Recently there was a video of Joe Biden running. That must have been a deep fake, Jason. Was that like from Ratatouille? Was that like a computer graphic guy? No, I know, I'm as surprised as you are. There was a current video from last week, not from like 1932, of Joe Biden running around the White House. You go, Jason, that's clearly not real. As the UFOs are flying over, you're like, I believe more in that UFO than I do on this video you're talking about. I'll put it in the show notes. There's a video of Joe Biden running around. Jogging, to be fair, but still ambulatory. Okay, so anyways, I saw that and I go, he's getting his second wind. He definitely is probably kind of chilling, right? It's like when your job's almost over. You're just like, whatever, I'm just going to take long lunch breaks and talk to my buddies all day long. Because what are they going to do? Fire me? Right? He's already past that. He doesn't have to worry about re-election. I'm sure he does have a little more pep in his step than he did just a couple months ago. But immediately when I was watching this video, like I think it was on Twitter because I was reading the comments, people were like, it's tall Biden. It's tall Biden. That's Biden's body double. You can clearly tell that's Biden's body double. We did an episode on that a long time ago. Supposedly, it's a Hollywood actor. It was one of my favorite stories I've ever covered on this podcast, honestly. It was this tall Hollywood actor who looks just like Joe Biden, apparently, and is kind of the same height. The actor actually used to be much taller, but then his spine was compressed and he lost like 3 inches of height. So now he's closer. But he definitely has longer legs than Biden, so people go, oh, that's his body double. You can tell, 1, because of the length of the legs, and 2, because he's running. He's running. He's totally healthy, jogging around. We got crazy conspiracies like that. We got the normal conspiracy theories about who's truly pulling the strings. Doesn't really matter who we vote for. The country, the world is run by more powerful interests than just the leader of the United States. Those are kind of old school conspiracy theories. But then we get these new ones. I want to highlight 2 of them. I'm not doing this to affect your vote, by the way. You're like, oh, you're filling out your ballot right now. You're like, pause. I want to see what Jason has to say about this. First off, there is a subreddit called WitchesVsPatriarchy. And I go, oh, dude, I bet you that's hilarious. I bet you that is a hilarious subreddit. I don't think... I would rather spend my day looking at Pinterest articles, or whatever they call them, on like how to make crocheted gloves than go back to Witches versus Patriarchy. Not because it enraged me. It's because it's so boring. The potential was way up here. I was like, oh, that'll be awesome. It'll be talking about spells. Right? I mean, that's just... If you're going to have Witches versus Patriarchy, I figured I was going to read a bunch of funny spells. They don't think they're funny. They think they're real. But I just thought it would be hilarious. No. It's like pictures of, like, look at this sticker I made. And it's just a sticker of a witch, like a silhouette of a witch, and at the bottom it says, Witchin'. It's not funny, right? I know they're trying to be funny. It's stupid. And then they have a bunch of photos of people holding a sticker that says, I voted. I mean, anyone can do that. That's not witchy. There's nothing witchy or witchin' about that. You voted. Okay, good for you. Don't post it on here. I'm looking for funny stuff. So anyways, I was super disappointed. I was like, oh man, this is dumb. But there is, on Witches versus Patriarchy, a spell. This witch said, you know what, we covered this a long time ago on the podcast. This witch goes, we've learned that Donald Trump is actually immune to magic. Which, right there, that's a pretty big jaw-dropping statement. And instead of analyzing that or why that might be, because, I mean, in the witch's world, magic is 100% real. Like, I do believe in magic, but I don't believe in witch magic. I have a really hard time wrapping my head around what's called lower magic. as opposed to higher magic, which is very ritual intense. High magic is things like Kabbalah magic, where it's all about sigils and very, very precise. It's almost like a science magic. You can't mess it up. You can't mess it up, otherwise the spell won't work or it'll go terribly wrong. You probably just hope it doesn't work. You're like, oh, okay, well, I didn't get my wish. I hope it didn't open a portal to hell. Witchcraft, lower magic, it's called that because it's like, wrinkly dinkly do. Where did I put my shoe? And then 3 days later, you're like, oh, there it is. There's my shoe. It's right underneath my broomstick. Oh, thank you, magic. Thank you for letting me know where my shoe is. It's stuff like that. They do use sigils, but it's just kind of like lame. I know a bunch of witches are casting curses. Don't worry, you're only cursing your iPhone or however you're listening to this podcast. It's going to blow up in your hand. Again, not a threat. Not a threat. But anyways, whatever. Like, I can rhyme. I can draw stuff. And I could make magic. I could. You could too. You could do all this lower magic stuff. I don't really think it works. But anyways, so the witches versus the patriarchy. I mean, think about what a more interesting topic is. You have someone, they hate him, by the way. They're not trying to give him blessings. They're not trying to give, oh, I hope he wins. Here's some magical rhymes to help you. No, they want Trump to lose. To make the statement, Trump is immune to magic, and we've known that for a while, that should be the discussion. Why? Why is he immune to magic? If you believe that your magic actually works, why is he immune to it? That's a huge question. If that is true, that sounds like the only question. I mean, you'd be like, why is there a human that we cannot affect with magic? They have just like an entire dumpster full of voodoo dolls and chicken feet and eyeballs of frogs and stuff like that. That was just what they were eating for lunch. And then here's the dumpster full of their spells. And they go, hey, we casted an entire dumpster full of spells on Donald Trump. It doesn't work. Why? But no, they gloss over that. They go, listen, we really want to stop Trump from being president, but he's immune to magic. He's immune to the thing that we believe powers the universe. He's immune to it. Let's gloss over that fact. Instead, they're going to say, you know what we should do is launch a freeze attack against Project 2025, which is this, I forgot who came up with it. It was the Heritage Foundation. There's a group called the Heritage Foundation. It's a conservative think tank that put together this portfolio of ideas of where they want to see America go. They go, why don't we launch a freeze attack against Project 2025? So the witches versus patriarchy were like, yeah, we should do that. We should freeze that thing. I mean, we can't obviously attack this guy who's more powerful than magic itself. But let's attack this other thing. Again, they don't even question that. Trump is immune to magic. That is a given in the witches versus patriarchy subculture. But they go, maybe if we launched a freeze attack against Project 2025, I don't know, it'll slow him down. If he goes to the website, he's like, oh, why is this taking so long on my computer? Magic. It's the first time he's ever been affected by magic in his life. He's like, oh, what hellspawn erupted from the bowels of the Dark Lord to make my computer run slow. But anyway, so they're going to launch a freeze attack against Project 2025. They have another plan. It's called the Blue Wave spell. I was like, okay, this will be funny. Right? I'm going into other people's religion. I was like, what's the funniest thing about these guys? I go, okay, maybe this is funny. So I had to look it up. And what you do is you take a blue candle that represents the Democrats, and then a tiny little red candle that represents the Republicans. And you have a black and white printout of the United States, like you print it out on your computer. You see why I don't take this stuff seriously, right? It's just like, any image will do, whatever. You can draw a picture of the United States. It's all like you forget Florida. You don't know the right borders. You accidentally draw Spain. I mean, whatever. You just have this, they give you a printout of the United States, and you color the map blue. while these candles are burning. So you have the red candle, and you write in the candle with a needle. Not while it's lit, right? You're like, it's the most painful spell ever. Hot wax dropping on your hand. You're like, I hope this works. You write Trump GOP on the red candle. You like carve it into the red candle. And then you look at the candle and you say, you are Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And then you light it. And then you light the blue candle, and there's this long poem, like you read out loud, which would just be hilarious. Next to these guys, you're like, oh, you sit there, you're trying to watch television, you're watching Dancing with the Stars, and from the other room you hear, raise a mighty blue wave, spirits, a wave of justice and mercy and truth, to wash away the corruption. You're just turning the volume up louder and louder. You're like, I hate this song that Eric Roberts is dancing to right now, but it's much better than what they're saying. They're like, they're getting louder and louder as the spell gets more to completion. Anyways, you have the candles burning, and at the ending, you break the red candle, and you're like, Donald Trump, you're so wicked, you're so wicked. I mean, forget living next to these guys. I want to be their roommate. I'm like, walking into the kitchen in my bathrobe to get a glass of milk, and someone's breaking candles in the living room going, Donald Trump! And I'm like, So you break these candles. Don't break the blue one. This is that spell. And, I guess it causes this blue wave. The blue wave is where, all these states turn Democratic. And you color in the map blue with a crayon. Dispose of the red candle. You're supposed to light the blue candle every day to the election after you've infused it with your power. So I'll put that whole thing in the show notes if you actually want to try it. If you do, please put a video online. Please send it to me. It would be quite fun. I think it'd be interesting. But that's the witch version, right? The witches are coming after Trump. And whatever. Right? It's a free country. People are allowed. We definitely have freedom of religion. They're allowed to practice their religion. They're allowed to do the ceremonies. I would recommend leaving the Crayolas out of it. Just in case somebody comes over and goes, why were you, all they see you is just coloring the United States. They're like, huh, what? This is what you do in your free time? You just color? I probably would leave out the Crayola myself, But anyways, free country. People are allowed to vote, luckily. People are allowed to vote who they want to vote for. People who are allowed to practice their religion. Free country. This next one I'm a little more curious about. Because I came up, and I'm actually surprised I've never heard of this guy before. Apparently he's pretty famous. It's weird. He's kind of famous. But he's famous in our realm. I never heard of the guy. As far as I can remember, I've never heard of this guy. We're about to meet a man named Darryl Anka. Some of you guys may know exactly who I'm talking about, because like I say, he's been around for a long time. He's an author, he's a speaker, and he's the conduit for Bashar. Back in 1983, pre-1983 really, when Darryl was a young man, he saw UFO. He saw a triangular UFO in the sky. And then after that, he was contacted by Bashar, who Darryl says is an entity from a parallel reality. And so as Darryl / Bashar, since 1983, he's been going on these speaking tours. He's written books, done presentations on this thing, interviews. And there's a lot of videos of this guy. I just stumbled across him, but, you can go back decades. And, he sells, his programs. It's $99 to go to one of these conventions. And you sit there in the audience. And it's funny because, so let me give you a little bit more of what he does. He'll be sitting there in a chair talking to someone, and he'll be like, okay, you guys want to talk to Bashar? They're like, yes, of course we want to talk to the alien. I mean, whatever, you're nice, I guess, but alien. And then he goes, That's not the alien voice. It's like an hour of him just making noises. And then afterwards, he's like, did I answer all of your questions? They're like, no, we didn't understand a word. His body will start to go all herky-jerky, and he'll make a couple weird noises. And he goes, hello, everybody, I am Bashar. And everyone's like, oh, dude, it's alien. It's alien dudes in him. So he doesn't, like, grow antennae, his skin doesn't molt off, and he's a reptilian. He's just a guy in a chair speaking in a deeper voice. Now, here's the thing. I really don't know enough about the guy to call him a fraud. Channeling is one of those things that I'm sure is possible. I don't think it's impossible. I don't think they're all frauds. I think it kind of has one of the highest fraud rates, though. It's so easy to fake. Because think about it this way. Being a psychic, being a medium, and being a channeler. And I guess channeling and medium are kind of the same thing, but usually mediums, that term is used when you are speaking to the dead. Psychic is where you're able to have a host of psychic powers, whether it's telekinesis, telepathy, fortune telling, seeing into the future, things like that. Channeling is you have this entity enter you and speak through you. So yeah, medium is just kind of like a translator between the living and the dead. A channeler is where the entity actually enters you. But there's a gray area there. I'm sure there are channelers who call themselves mediums. And mediums who call themselves channelers. But anyways, all three are pretty easy to fake. If you do your research on a particular person or a particular location, you know what you're getting into, you can say, I can see the spirits and they're telling me stuff that you can easily find on Wikipedia. Oh, the spirits have spoken. But I think some psychics are real. I think that some mediums are real. They're just really easy to fake. The thing with channeling that makes and again, I'm not calling this guy a fraud, just giving a little intro. The thing that raises my fraud meter a bit is that a psychic generally is giving you information, and I know you can psychologically fool people. I know you can have them give you information without them really understanding that they're giving you more information. That famous someone in this audience who has a family member that starts with the letter J has passed away recently. Someone goes, oh, that's me. And it was James, right? I'm hearing Jerry. Yeah, my uncle's nickname was Jeremiah. Oh, yeah, that's who I'm talking about. So you can kind of feed that, right? But at the end of the day, you're talking to someone and you're saying, the spirit that knew you is speaking to me. And I'm revealing information that you know whether or not that information is true or false. As in, he told me that you broke your leg when you were a kid. Is that true? Yeah. I did yesterday. I'm still a kid. And they have a big cast on your leg. It says, signed Jeremiah, autographed it before he died. You know what I mean? A medium can come to your house and talk about things. And you can get fooled by a fraud. But at the end of the day, a good medium will be able to tell you things that you knew were true. And that's kind of how you get to trust them. If they came to your house and said, yes, your mother's talking to me. She died in a pool. She died in the pool. Isn't that true? She drowned. And it's not true. Then you know that it's fraud. You know some of the information that they're giving you is actually true before starting. With a channeler, it's completely different. Because if it's an alien entity from a parallel reality, there's no information you can use to verify. If I'm saying Zobo from Ishtar Command is in my body right now, and I start telling you about this great intergalactic war that's going on, that you can't verify any of that. So I feel like the fraud level can be much higher. Darryl, he does seem like a pretty affable guy. I've watched enough interviews with him. He seems nice. It was interesting when I was watching an interview. I was watching I was watching one of his presentations, one of his speaking tour. The audience was super relaxed and joking with him, and he was joking back. It's not like it takes itself super seriously. I go, that's a little refreshing, Because a lot of times, like, you can go to one of these things or watch clips of them, and they always seem about as fun as a funeral. Just people sitting around. I mean, I guess the other ones, people are like, oh, my mother did die in a pool. Oh my God. Oh my God. We still haven't cleaned the pool. Oh, her blood is in the water. Like, I guess it is more depressing just because of what they're talking about. But very, very off the cuff, very loose, fun seminars, which is refreshing. Bashar, he's been around since 1983. And surprisingly, there's not a lot of information on him. There's even a website called Rational Wiki, which is a debunking website. And even they were kind of like, we don't believe him, but he's kind of a nice guy. I mean, even they weren't like, because when I started looking into the guy, I was like, did this guy ever get busted for fraud? Has this guy ever been proven right beyond the shadow of a doubt? This, that, or the other thing. There's really not a lot of information on him. There was a Wikipedia page, a very short Wikipedia page, in another language that I had to run through Google Translate. Might have been Japanese. I don't remember which one it was, but he had a Wikipedia page that was not in English. He has a very short page on the Rational Wiki, so even though they don't believe him, they didn't have a bunch of stuff to debunk. Because it's just stuff that he says. They go, well, we don't believe what he's saying. But, sometimes these guys get, wrapped up in fraud, or it turns out they're in hiding and they're recording all their videos from an undisclosed location because the IRS is after him. I didn't see any of that stuff in Darryl's past. So those are good signs. He goes on, a lot of this stuff that he starts off with is pretty basic stuff we've heard before. Earth is a school. We're here to learn. Earth is a school, honestly, that's about as deep as a Taylor Swift lyric, because it is. It is a Taylor Swift lyric. And whether or not it's true, it's pretty shallow. It's a shallow statement. Again, you can't prove it or disprove it, right? Not until you die. And you're like, oh, Earth wasn't a school. It was actually more of a reformatory. The whole thing, humans are actually bioengineered by an ancient alien race that needed to dig up minerals. And so they used troglodytes or cavemen and put in some of their DNA, which created Homo sapiens. But anyways, these aliens need minerals, and the aliens weren't supposed to do that, so they got in trouble. That's why we don't see aliens anymore. It's that kind of thing. But the aliens are still out there. They're keeping an eye on us. Da-da-da-da-da. Pretty basic stuff. That's not why I'm talking about this, though. I have an interesting question for you. Because I was watching this video, and apparently this video has been taken down on the Bashar official channels. No pun intended. No pun intended. On his YouTube channels and Instagram channels and stuff like that. He very recently did a speaking engagement. And, they'll show clips of it. A clip here on Instagram, clip here on Instagram. Here's a couple clips on YouTube, so on and so forth. One of them's missing, apparently. I couldn't find it. And another person on Instagram mentioned it. I was reading through the comments because I came across this guy because he's going to be in a documentary. It's called Interview with an Extraterrestrial. And it's you can see him go, hello, I am Bashir. Thank you for having me in this interview. Yeah, basically that for 2 hours. But anyways, it just saved you $99. He's going to be in this documentary coming up. I was like, what? I've never heard of this guy. I started looking into him. I was like, this is interesting. He's been around almost as long as I've been alive. I don't ever recall coming across this dude, which means he's keeping a relatively low profile in the sense that he's not actively committing fraud. Sometimes you don't know about these guys until you see them in handcuffs being led into the paddy wagon. So this clip, though, was removed. I was able to find it. I was able to watch it. And I think you'll realize why it may have been removed. Someone on Instagram was like, hey, you guys, something got removed from here. It's a 3 to 4 minute clip about the election. This is super interesting, and I have my own theories and opinions. I'd love to hear from you guys. So, the way the clip starts off, I'll put it in the show notes, but I don't know how long it's going to stay up. I really don't know how long it's going to stay up. I downloaded a copy for myself, but I probably can't re-upload it. But we'll see, because it's been re-uploaded by a fan of his. and it talks directly about the election. This woman gets up, because you can get up and ask questions of Bashar or Darryl, whichever one is in the body at the same time. I'd be like, oh, can I come back later? I want to talk to the space alien. He's like, it's not really a space alien. It's parallel reality, but no, you got to talk to me. Okay. I mean, what do you ask just the guy? You talk to him. I can talk to people all day long. There's a ton of people in here that aren't possessed by an alien. I can talk to them if I want to. I want to talk to the alien. Anyways, this woman goes, hey, I have this spiritual tutor. I have this spiritual teacher who told me that Donald Trump is going to win. This woman goes right to the weird. There's no buildup. This is what I love about paranormal gatherings, right? Because everyone there pretty much believes in this stuff. I'll be at the Port Gamble Paranormal Ghost Conference, Port Gamble Ghost Conference, November 8th through the 10th. Go to portgamble.com for more information, but I love going to these things. This woman stands up and she goes, hey, my spiritual guide told me that if Trump wins, that he will win, is what her spirit guide said, that humanity is going to go to the moon. Like, not like just 3 dudes up there playing golf, like moon bases. And humans will live on the moon. And then a bunch of humans will move to Mars as well. So if Trump wins, I mean, like, isn't that a reason to vote for Trump? She's all appealing to the crowd. They're like, wait, what? The moon? That wasn't part of his proposal. He didn't talk about that on Joe Rogan. Or maybe he did. It was 3 hours long. But humans are going to go to the moon if Trump wins. Isn't that awesome, guys? Don't we want Trump to win? Because who doesn't want to live on the moon? And that's when Bashar is there. So Bashar, as speaking through Darryl, and really this one was kind of interesting because he was kind of like doing both. He was like, hold on, let me talk to Central Command. And there's like this long pause. And then he goes, I just got off the phone with Central Command. They said this. It's like, just, here's the thing. What I think is so funny is that if it's real, it's real. But if it's phony, it's even funnier. Because then, basically, this guy is getting people to pay $99 a pop to sit in a room with him for him to just troll them all day long. He's like, interesting question, everybody. Let me contact the space police. And he just sits there. He pulls his phone out. He's all playing a video game. He's like, oh, yes, I can do 2 things at once. I can talk to the space police and post on Twitter. I just talked to the space police. They said you're wrong. Next question. I mean, like, how do I want to get into this, man? Let me back up. I don't want anything to float into my body and take over. But if just the scamming part, right? I can make stuff up all day long. So anyways, Darryl goes, listen, here's the thing. As these aliens, Bashar and his alien commanders or paranormal reality people, whatever, he says that they share a soul. They're like soul twins, Darryl and Bashar. He goes, we're not supposed to talk about politics. We're not supposed to comment on that. But then he goes, we are checking to see what we are allowed to say. And he's sitting there. And he goes, okay, I got an answer from Star Command. I got an answer. I can give you he says I'm allowed to give you very general specifics about the election in the United States. However, we're not supposed to do this. Normally, we don't. Once I tell you what the space alien command people have told me, you are responsible for it. That's the way that this is going to work out. Once I tell you what the alien overlord has to say about politics, you are responsible for that. Are you willing to take on that responsibility? And the woman at the microphone goes, yeah, totally. She's going to the moon, right? She doesn't care because Trump's going to win and be on the moon. Bunch of witches flying around Earth would be really mad. Their powers do not work on the moon. So this is what he is allowed to say. Bashar has this message for the world. Talking about who he elected as president. Okay. Quote, the female will lead to open contact. Do I need to say more? And that's when the woman who asked the question, she still has the microphone, she says no. So he goes, the female will lead to open contact, meaning aliens, that aliens are going to come to Earth and make themselves visible. And Kamala will lead to open contact. Do I need to say more? And the woman who asked the question said no. Then Bashar continues, are you willing to take responsibility for the information? And the woman who asked the question said yes. Bashar then says, the male will lead to the termination of the United States and World War III. Unquote. And you hear the audience kind of gasp at that comment. I understand why it got removed. If it really did, I couldn't find it. Maybe it is there somewhere, but I was able to find a re-upload of it. I understand why that got taken down. Anytime you talk about politics, you are going to lose or at least piss off half your audience. And people tend to believe that others share their political beliefs. So I'm sure Darryl is pro-Kamala. And he's talking to a bunch of people who he considers either spiritually enlightened or on the path towards spiritual enlightenment. And he probably assumed all of them would vote for Kamala. But I'm sure he got some backlash, and the video was taken down. From the reaction in the crowd, you could tell that there probably were people who were planning on voting for Trump that may be a little reluctant to. And it was interesting, too, because that woman said, well, my spiritual leader said Trump will win and we're going to go to the moon and go to Mars. And so you wonder, whose spirit... This is a question you have to ask yourself in this audience. Well, whose spiritual leader do I believe? Do I believe Bashar, or do I believe this random woman whose spiritual leader told her this? Now, both of them could be completely making it up. I think because I didn't actually go, but hypothetical me, because I paid $99 to see Bashar, and he's written decades worth of books, I think my brain would automatically trust him more. Like sunken cost fallacy, you're already 10 toes into Bashir, that you're just going to believe anything he says, but it's interesting. And I could see why they took it down if they did get some blowback from that. Because there's a lot of people, 50-50. Whenever you go somewhere, unless you're actually going to a political rally for one of these guys, you walk into a restaurant, 50% of the people there, most likely, are going to not vote for the person you want to vote for. And it's been like that for decades. It's been like that my entire life. It's nothing new. But my interesting thing about this is, one, this guy has now dated himself. His career as this Bashar channeler will be over in 5 years or less. Unless he pulls this whole, the alternate reality lied to me. It was not Bashir, it was Shabazz, his evil twin, who, if I ever do get arrested, it was that guy's name backwards who took control of me that day. He's dated himself. He has 5 years to really... Because what if we don't go to war? Trump wins. America doesn't fall apart. We don't go to World War III. He serves 4 years. He's gone. Then what? That also might be a reason why it got taken down. Because it's a very, very hard number prediction. Kamala wins, it will lead to open contact. You could wiggle your way out of that. You could be like, well, I didn't say it was going to be during her presidency. I just said it would lead to open contact with extraterrestrials. But Trump's, you're like, no, he'll destroy America and cause World War III. There's always people, whenever they make prophecies, they always try to find that wiggle room, but you date it. And I can almost guarantee there are people who went home from that live event disillusioned with Bashar because of what he said about their political, who they're going to vote for, their political party, who they're going to vote for. I'm sure there were people in that audience, 50%, It's more like 30% are for Trump, 30% are for Kamala, and 30% of the country just doesn't care. They don't vote. They're just like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. But for the most part, 50-50, right? I think you can do that divide. So, very interesting. And when I watched this video, when I watched this video, I thought, is that election interference? Because let's say, if he's lying, it's a dumb lie. If he's lying, then that's just kind of slimy. Because you're using your made up. It's not like Stephen King, who writes stuff and is very, very political. He did shoot John Lennon. He did get his start because he killed a great artist at the behest of, I think it was Reagan who asked him to, personally. We'll put those episodes in the show notes. Stephen King's been political since the day he shot John Lennon, but he also writes fiction, and sometimes his politics bleed into his fiction. That's totally fine. Because when you're reading Insomniac by Stephen King, which is his worst book ever, and it's all about a guy who can't sleep, and he has to stop a mass shooting at an abortion clinic where his girlfriend works, you understand there's going to be a lot of politics. But imagine that this Bashar guy, he is real and people 100% believe him. Now he's giving, not Darryl. Darryl's not giving his opinion on the election. Bashar is. And he's not even stating it as an opinion. Stephen King could say, Cheeto Man's at it again. He could say all this stuff. He can even list a bunch of facts, but we go, well, that's your opinion. You might have facts to back up parts of it, sure, but if it's a space alien from an alternate reality, and you believe it's a space alien from an alternate reality who has powers beyond that of normal men, and then you hear that message, it's not like it's your favorite author telling you something. It's more akin of your minister telling you something. And churches are not supposed to be political. Not just for the tax benefits, but because that's not the point. If you suffer on earth because a government is against your religion, that's kind of the point of a lot of religions, is the suffering. The martyrdom. Anyways, is it tacky or even kind of, I don't want to say dangerous, that's not the right word, but if this alien is interfering with our elections and they're swaying votes, let's say that in this crowd of, 500 people, 100 people change their vote. They go, I don't want World War III, I'm going to vote for Kamala. Not a huge deal, I guess, right? It's not that big of a deal. I just think it's weird. I think it's so odd that this space alien talking through this dude, here come the Marines to extract me and end this podcast once and for all. I just find it weird. I find it weird and a little tacky. Everyone has the right to speak. I've been saying that the whole episode. But what about aliens? What about entities from another dimension? I don't think the Bill of Rights applies to them. And honestly, the Bill of Rights technically doesn't apply to someone in Ethiopia because it's an American document, but I would still grant anyone on the planet Earth to have the freedom of speech. But I think you do have to have a limit. At a certain point, you can't have, devils getting involved. You can't have space aliens get involved. People from another reality get involved. So if they're interfering with our election, if he's making it up, it's just kind of dumb for him to say, because he probably lost a lot of people supporting him that day. And he probably got some blowback from comments on the video, and it was taken down. I don't have any proof of that, but the fact that the video was up at one point and now it's gone, there was a reason for that. If he made it up, I can make up stuff too, right? I can be like, make sure you vote this weekend. The election's not for a couple more days. You're all, what? Why am I here on a Sunday? Jason told me to vote this weekend, what? But you know what I mean? I can say, vote for this guy, vote for that guy, and you take it for a grain of salt. But if I said I just spoke to an alien, this alien guy flew into my brain, and they were taking me away to the loony bin. I was like, no, you have to let me vote. Do I get my ballot in the padded cell? If I started saying that an alien was speaking through me, and he goes, we really want to visit Earth, and give you all sorts of cool things, but we can't. We can't unless Kamala wins. So spread the message, Jason. I wouldn't trust anything that sounded that creepy. You could do this, you could change people's votes because they think you're not just a guy who reads the New York Times, but you're a space alien who's lived for 1,000 years. Right? I mean, whose opinion are you going to take? The guy who just has a subscription to an earthly newspaper? Or the man who sailed across the galaxies, watched black holes be formed, and quasars do what quasars do. I think they're just really bright. He's all blind. So that's why I can't read the newspaper. Because I'm blind. I looked at a quasar. But I've traveled many, many decades to get here to Earth. Luckily, I can live to be 10,000 years old. Spent most of that traveling Earth and live really far away. But anyways, I got 1,000 years left to live. I'm 9,000 years old, and I'm here to tell you that you should vote for Kamala. Like, what would you do? Right? I mean, now here's the thing. You're like, Jason, well, I don't believe in this Bashar guy. The way you make it sound that he just sits there in a Hawaiian shirt and changes his voice every couple minutes. And that's pretty much it. I don't know why. But, maybe he is getting possessed by an alien. I honestly don't know. He just seems like a nice guy. He hasn't had any scandals as far as I know, as far as I can tell, for 40 years. So that's, a tip of your hat to that. That's kind of hard. But imagine if a space alien came to you. You're asleep tonight, and a space alien showed up in your bedroom. He's holding your ballot. You're like, I already voted by mail. How did you get that? He's like, these tiny arms allow me to reach into ballot boxes. I was genetically designed to interfere with elections. Here's your ballot back. I want you to refill it out. He's all watching you. You're like, oh, can I refill it out in the bathroom? Alien's like, yeah, sure. I can stand in the bathtub. He's looking over your shoulder to make sure you vote for the right candidate. You're voting for Trump again. He's like, eat. He erases your pencil mark. Do it again. He traps you in a time loop. You're like, I've been in this time loop for 500 years. I guess I should just vote Kamala. You're all trying to fight it. It's like Groundhog Day, but just every time you fill out the wrong bubble, you start over. Anyways, like, what would you do if an alien showed up and says you voted for the wrong person? This is supposed to be the comptroller of your city. You're like, oh, you're stuck in this immortal loop and he never tells you who to vote for. You're like, oh no, there's 7 judges and I have to pick 3. It's like, nope, you didn't pick the right 3. You're all, the madness. Should aliens be able to interfere in human elections? We don't really even let other countries do it. They always do. We do it to other countries do it to ours. But on the face of it, we say that people shouldn't interfere with other elections, which again is really funny when we say it because we've done nothing but do that pretty much since I've been alive and before that. But anyways, we talk about other countries not interfering in each other's elections. What about aliens? Like, even the witches, right? Even the witches, at the end of the day, they're still human. They're still citizens of Earth. And even if some Canadian was casting a spell to curse an American president, I mean, like, now that I think about it, actually, that's an act of war. I was about to be like, oh, that's not a big deal. But it kind of is. They're like, yeah, it's interesting. He's immune to magic. Nothing we've ever been able to do. He's been shot at multiple times at this point. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, how many of you guys are doing bullet spells? No, like, he does seem to be immune to magic. It's very dangerous to hang out with this President Trump guy at this point. But anyways, should aliens be allowed to interfere in elections? If you truly believed in a particular psychic or channeler or medium, and they told you directly, I just had a message from beyond the veil. Your great Aunt Ruth, remember your great Aunt Ruth? She always gave you those little butterscotch candies when you came over. You really loved Aunt Ruth. She was super nice to you. She always went out of her way to make you Mickey Mouse pancakes when you came over. She wants you to vote no on Proposition 64. She says it's going to destroy the public transit system. So vote no. Like, what? You're all crying. You're all, oh, great aunt. Oh, does she have a message telling me she's okay? Does she have a message telling me she's waiting for me in heaven? No. All of a sudden, a campaign ad pops up between you and the psychic. Do you think the dead should be able to interfere in our elections? Do you think aliens should be able to interfere in our elections? Witches, yeah, sure, they have the right to. The dead, that's kind of iffy, right? Because they're used to be human. But if they're saying, no, I saw into the ghost future, there's a bunch more ghosts. I see 1 billion more ghosts in the future. So there's going to be a huge calamity coming. I can see it. All the ghosts that I hang out with are already talking about it. 1 billion new ghosts are going to pop up in the next few years. Unless you vote no on Proposition 64, you're like, wait, what? Yes, the public transit system is that bad. Billions will die. If you're getting like a psychic that you believe in or a channeler that you believe in telling you X, Y, and Z will happen if you don't vote for so-and-so, here's the thing. It sounds tacky. It sounds slimy. And at the end of the day, it raises the question, should they be able to do that? Not the people that are channeling, because they can make up whatever they want. Should space aliens and ghosts get involved in an election? I think it's a fascinating conversation. So fascinating that that's all we have time for today. What was the second story I was going to talk about? I don't remember. It's in my notes. Oh, yeah. We'll save that one for tomorrow. So that's all we have time for today. Sergeant Clowney, we're going to have you back tomorrow to fly that Carpenter copter. Hope you guys enjoyed the first and last time we talked about politics this entire election season. One political episode every 4 years. I think we're golden. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal conspiracy and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great day.
So before we go take a final note, no on 15 is the way to vote. No on 15. No on 15.